Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Carolyn, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection that I feel like are great for winter and ones that I plan on using this winter. So if that sounds interesting to you, then just keep on watching. Kelly from Keep Beauty Real recently posted her eyeshadow palette picks for winter, and so I was inspired by her to do this video. And if you haven't checked out Kelly's channel, I will have it linked in the description box. I'm sure most of you watching this video have probably heard of her channel and follow her channel, but if you haven't checked out her channel, I highly recommend checking her channel out. She is a professional hair and makeup artist and a wealth of knowledge, and she always responds to any questions, all comments I leave. She's very responsive. She gives very thorough reviews. She's super sweet. So yeah, I highly recommend checking out her channel. And I'll have her winter eyeshadow palette picks video linked in the description box, as well as her channel. So definitely check her out if you haven't already. But yeah, I was debating about whether or not to do this video, and I actually mentioned it in her comments that maybe I should do it, but I didn't know. I did the same video last year and I didn't know if I had new palettes to talk about, but she said I should still do this video, so that's what I'm doing. I have 10 eyeshadow palettes to talk about that are still available, and then I have 3 honorable mentions that are no longer available. So I'm just gonna get started. I do want to mention I feel like a lot of these are Melt and Colourpop. Both brands I kind of collect. I don't collect all of Colourpop, just their collab palettes that I'm interested in, but you'll see a pattern of Melt and Colourpop. Not all of them are Melt and Colourpop, but just wanted to throw that out there. First one is the Colourpop Darth Vader one from their Star Wars collection. And I don't know, so I dropped this when I was doing the thumbnail, which luckily none of the shades broke, but they fell out. I don't know if they're in like the right order, but it's funny because in one of Kelly's videos with her talking about eyeshadow palettes, I don't know which one it was, but she was talking about how she drops her palettes in the thumbnail, like while taking a thumbnail. And does anybody else drop their palettes while they're taking their thumbnail pictures? Yes. I'm just really glad that none of these shadows broke, but this is obviously cool toned and dark and moody and wintry, but I really enjoyed the looks I've done with this palette. I really like layering this Stormtrooper shade over this red shade in the middle. I think that gives a really pretty effect, and I like that there's this berry toned shade down here, and you get one of these sequin shades, which I know not everyone is a fan of, but I don't mind them. I find them usually a bit easier to blend out than regular dark mattes. But yeah, I would say if you have this palette, pull it out this winter. Next, I'm going to talk about the Glamlight Chocolate Martini palette. That's what this one looks like, and I'm sorry if the lighting is bad. My lighting in here isn't the greatest, and it's kind of getting dark outside, so I have to try to get through this quickly. But this is the only one I have from Glamlight, and this is the only palette where I don't set my eyeshadow base. I normally set my eyeshadow primer with some sort of powder to make it easier, because it makes it easier to blend out mattes, but not with this one. This is the only one. When I do use a setting powder on my primer with this, it just turns out really kind of muddy and messy and just hard. The mattes are really hard to blend. I thought I didn't like this palette, but then when I tried it without setting my primer, it worked out really well. So now I really like this palette. I didn't have a good first go around with it, but first few times I used it, I didn't like it, but then I came to really enjoy this palette, and I've gotten some really pretty looks with this. It's kind of a neutral palette with a twist. It's interesting neutrals, and I just really enjoy this palette. I think it's great year round, but I'm going to try to make it more of a point to use it this winter. Next, I have the Colourpop the Child palette, and this is such a cute little palette. I got it for the packaging, I'm not gonna lie, but I actually really like the looks that I get with this palette, and I think it's pretty good quality. I have gotten a lot of good use out of this palette, and I want to continue using it. I think it's just such a cute little palette. Really easy to come up with looks with this palette, and I love the kind of cool tone greens that we have in here, and then these two shimmer shades are really nice, and then I really like this shade here, this like Super Shock shade here to layer over the other shades. I like the Super Shocks that they put in the Colourpop palettes because I feel like they just layer over the other shades nicely and they give a cool effect. But this is an oldie but a goodie. And then I also have the Mandalorian from Star Wars, from the Colourpop Star Wars line. And this is a fun little cool toned palette that I think is great for winter, fall as well. Well, year round, honestly, but I think it's really good for winter. I really like the tones of the mattes and just overall the tones of the shadows in this palette. I'm hoping to get more use out of it this winter. Next, I'm taking a break from Colourpop. I have the Melt Cheese and Parties palette. This palette isn't actually available on the Melt website anymore. It's available on the Beauty Bay website and Nordstrom, so it's probably getting discontinued. So I would pick it up soon if you're really wanting to get this palette. But if you don't have this palette, I feel like Colourpop Orchid You Not is pretty similar in color story, as well as I've seen someone compare this to the Natasha Denona Retro palette. There's a lot of color stories that are similar to this. I'm sure you probably have something similar in your collection if you have a collection like I do. But I think this is such a great winter, well, year-round palette for me. Fall, winter, it's like dark and kind of moody and just gorgeous. I love the looks that I get from this palette. I love these like berry burgundy tones on me personally. I just think this is such a pretty palette. It's one of my favorite Melt palettes, and this is one I definitely need to use more. This is the Odin's Eye in collaboration with Lauren May Beauty Sea Talk palette. And honestly, this color story is pretty year-round. Well, all makeup is year-round. I just enjoy kind of using my makeup more seasonally. It's kind of fun for me to switch up my makeup with the different seasons. But this one is very summery, but I feel like it's also great for fall with the blues. And there's a cool tone matte here. I've just been really enjoying playing with this palette and the other palettes from the Perfect World collection. This is limited edition. I know that as I'm filming this video, these are still in stock, but it is limited edition. So if you're wanting this palette, I would grab it soon. Yeah, I'm excited to play around with the blues a little bit more. I haven't used this shade too much. I haven't really used this shade that much either, so I definitely need to get more use out of this palette. I know I've used these shades at least once. I've used every shade at least once, but it's still not as much as I'd like to have used it. But yeah, that's that one. I have the Melt Morte palette. This is honestly more of a companion palette for me. I have used this on its own once, but I didn't really enjoy it. I don't really enjoy this palette on its own. It's definitely a companion palette for me, but it's currently available as I'm filming this on the Melt website. I don't know if it's a permanent palette for them or what, because they brought it out as like a limited edition. It was initially a limited edition. It was gone for a while. Then they brought it back and said it was limited edition, but it's still on the website. So I don't really know. But if you have this palette, I would suggest pulling it out this winter and pairing it with some other palettes, because you have these really dark, like this whole middle area is really dark. This is a great inner corner shade. But yeah, you have a lot of dark shades here. I feel like this section here is just perfect for winter time, perfect deepening up shades. And yeah, I'll definitely be using this in conjunction with some other palettes coming up in the coming months. I have the Colourpop Star Wars palette. This palette is currently out of stock on the Colourpop website, but you can buy it in a bundle. And I think they're going to be bringing it back because it's just listed as out of stock. It's not, it's still on the website. I don't know. They've brought this back twice now, I think, so I'm sure they're probably going to bring it back again, but I got it because of the theming. I think this was one that I mentioned last year, and I still stand by that. It will do great in the winter, and I love these Super Shock shades. There's 3 of them in here, and they just look so pretty topped over other shadows, as I've been saying. They are a little bit sheer on their own, but I do think like topped over other shadows, I really like the effect they give, and you get this really nice silver. It's so like metallic, liquid metal. I just think this is one of the best silvers I have in my collection. And yeah, the tones in here are just perfect for winter, cool toned, and just I really enjoy this palette. So I would highly recommend, if you have this palette, using it this winter. Okay, next I have the Odin's Eye, and in collaboration with Angelica Nefis, the Halloween palette. And this is also a limited edition, but it's still in stock as I'm filming this. So if you want it, I would snag it soon. But I think this is just a perfect color story for winter. If you kind of just take out this bottom row, but I would still use these in the winter. I still like to play around with different colors, and I don't, with all year round, I don't just stick with only what I like my winter palettes in the winter or any season. But I still like to use the cool tones and stuff in the winter as well. But anyway, this is such a fun palette, and I think it's great for winter. I made a really kind of icy wintry look with this palette recently. These blue tones in this dark navy is super pretty. This purple is really pretty for an outer corner. You have a lot of deepening up shades in this palette, which I really enjoy. And I've just had a lot of fun with this palette, and I think it'll be really fun to pull out this winter. I really like the shimmer shades in here. Yeah, I'm really excited to play around with this more. Next I have the Melt Cosmetics and Bailey Sarian Fatally Yours palette. And I think this is so moody and grungy, and yes, it's kind of fall leaning, but also I think will be fun to pull out this winter. A lot of these shades are darker on the lids than they look in the pan, and this is a really good companion palette for me. It's not one I love using on its own, but it's so fun as a companion palette. I did a look combining it with the Adept Heather Austin palette, and that look turned out really great, I think. And I think that's a great palette to pair with this one, or any of your special shimmers. If you have indie shadows, indie singles, or just any kind of special shimmers, I think they would go really well with this palette. So I will be using it this winter for sure, but if you have it, I would continue playing with it this winter. So next I have 3 that are not currently available, but I did want to mention them because I feel like they're perfect for winter. And if you have them, maybe this would inspire you to pull them out and use them, or if you have something similar. But I have the Blueberry Muffin, and this is when I think of my winter eyeshadow palettes, this is just the first one that comes to mind because of the blue and icy tones, and I just get really pretty looks with this. The formula in this one is fantastic. It's a little bit older in my collection, but I just used it the other day, and it just performed beautifully. No issues with it degrading so far. So I'm really happy about that, and I just love the tones in here, and I love the blue and brown combination. So if you have this palette, this is your reminder to pull it out. And I think the new Cosmic brushes, like if you don't have this one and you can't get it, first of all, it is all over Poshmark. I know that because I was looking to see if you could get this anywhere. And so if you are okay with getting buying it from someone else, then that's an option. Sometimes you can get ones that are totally unused. So that's an option. But the Cosmic Brushes Winter Wonderland would be another great option with a lot of blues, and that one looks gorgeous. That's on my wish list. I may end up getting that, even though it has a lot of similar shades to this. It's different because it's more, it has a lot of teal shades, but it has blues and like icy shimmers and stuff like that. But if you want like a dupe the vibes kind of thing, I feel like this palette and that palette might be a little bit similar. So I don't think that one has a gray or these browns, but it has blues and has icy tones. Next I have the Melt Mary Jane palette, and this is one, if you have it, pull it out. I'm not recommending trying to buy this one because a lot of people really don't like it because it's messy, as you can maybe see from the palette itself, but it's pretty messy. But I love this palette. I'm actually wearing it today, and I have kind of a mixture. So I do, with this palette, it is a little bit high maintenance. I have on these two shimmers on the lid, and before I put these on, I put on NYX glitter glue, and then on top of that I put NYX glitter glue on again and topped it with this shimmer down here. I really like these crumbly textured shimmers. That's just my personal preference. A lot of people don't like that though. It is messier, and you do have to take your time with this palette. This is one of those palettes where if you want to just take your time and get glammed up, I would pull this palette out if you have it already. But yeah, I think it's perfect for winter, all year round, honestly. I really love this palette. I hadn't used it in a while, and then I used it today, and I was like, oh, I love it. I love this palette. This was sent to me from my friend DW from Deb's Beauty Diary here on YouTube, and I'm so happy that she sent it to me. Yeah, I love this palette. Lastly, I have the Berry Icy palette from Simply Posh Cosmetics, and this was sent to me by my friend Brittany Ray Beauty. And this one is very wintry, obviously, with these blues, and I love the tones. And then I really love the shimmer formula because they're thin but really sparkly, and there's more base pigment to them, and I just love the way they look on the eyes. I really like this matte formula. I think it blends out really easily, and yeah, I've really enjoyed my time with this palette so far. I'm not sure if the brand is bringing this palette back or not. I know they've released a couple new palettes. The Aurora Lights one is still available, or is currently the only eyeshadow palette they have available, but that one is really pretty, and it'd probably be great for winter. And I've heard that formula is even better than this formula, and I've really enjoyed this formula. So if you're interested in trying this brand, I would check out the Aurora Lights palette. I think it would be great for winter as well. But yeah, those were the eyeshadow palettes that I pulled out for winter. I wanted to pick ones that were still available, but then also I was like, I can't do this video and not mention these three, the Blueberry Muffin, the Berry Icy, and the Mary Jane palette, because they're perfect winter palettes. So yeah, so that's why they're honorable mentions. But this is just an encouragement for you to shop your own stash and see what kind of palettes you would like to use this winter. I think it's fun to rotate your makeup if you have a collection, to rotate your makeup seasonally. It's just kind of something fun to do for me anyway. I'm not encouraging you to go and buy these palettes if they weren't on your radar previously. But more of just similar color stories, and just to give you some ideas of color stories, similar color stories for you to pull out this winter. As I said earlier, I did do this video last year, and a lot of those palettes that I talked about I actually gave to my friend. I still love those palettes. I think those are still great recommendations, but I was moving and giving my friend a lot of makeup because she didn't really have any, and I took the opportunity to kind of give her everything that I was willing to part with because most of my palettes I'm not willing to part with. So anything that I was willing to part with, I passed on to her. But I still think those are great palettes that I talked about that I ended up decluttering. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you plan on using this winter, even if it's not wintry. I'd love to know. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!